They instead of trusting in God and looking forward to the promised land, which is the focal point here of this passage, this is their future, this was their destiny, this is what is referred to as their rest, which would come once they entered the land that God had provided for them. And so the writer of Hebrews is warning them not to give up, because if those to whom he is writing give up, they're going to miss out on their role and responsibility in the future rest of the millennial kingdom, and they'll be like the Exodus believers who failed to persevere and endure in the wilderness, and they gave up, and they let the pressure of the negative external circumstances cause them to turn away from the promise of God and focus back on the leeks and the garlics in Egypt. They wanted to go back where they had convinced themselves life was really easier under slavery than it is out here trusting in God. And remember, every day God provided enough food for them in terms of manna. He provided for their clothing. Their clothing never wore out during the entire 40 years they were in the wilderness. Their shoes didn't wear out for 40 years during the wilderness. God provided plenty of water for them, and yet they were ungrateful, and they rejected God's provision and were turning back to want to go back to Egypt. And so there's always that testing. And so as the writer of Hebrews comes to the end of his second main instructional section, in verse 6, there's a comparison between Moses in Hebrews 3:5, who was faithful in all of his house as a servant for a testimony of those things which would